I'm picking up my granddaughter from school. She gets into the car, closes the door, and just stares straight ahead. Her face isn't sad. It isn't angry. It's hollow, empty. It's the look of someone who's been drained of all their light. She's 15. I ask her how her day was. A shrug. I ask if something happened. A quiet no. Then, after a silence so long I could feel it in my bones, she asks the question, the one that's been echoing in this old head of mine ever since. She says, "Grandpa, does anything we do actually matter?" My name is Thomas. I am 86 years old. I have seen wars begin and end. I have felt the ache of recessions. I have buried people I couldn't live without, and I have faced failures so deep I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy. And that question from my 15-year-old granddaughter, it didn't just shake me, it cracked me open. Because I have stood in that same lonely place. I have whispered that same question to the dark, more times than I care to remember. The only difference is, I am at the end of my life looking back. She is at the beginning, looking into a future that seems vast and heavy. And somewhere in the space between our two perspectives, I believe I've finally grasped a truth. We live in a world that screams for impact. Leave your mark. Change the world. Be remembered. I see the hunger for it everywhere. People chase titles, believing a position will grant them significance. They pour their lives into platforms, measuring their worth in likes and shares and followers. They tie their name to causes, hoping to be part of something bigger. And I understand it. I feel that pull, even now. But after walking this earth for nearly 9 decades, here is the quiet truth I've found. The things that truly, lastingly matter almost never feel like they matter while you're doing them. Let me tell you about my old neighbor, Irene. She lived 2 streets over from me for 50 years. Irene worked at the public library. She never married. She had no children of her own. Her entire career was spent in that quiet building, checking out books, reshelving returns, helping folks find a story or an answer. Day in, day out. When she retired, they had a small cake for her in the staff room. Maybe a dozen people came. She received a signed card and a warm handshake. She passed away a few years later. At her memorial service, I expected a modest gathering. Irene was a quiet soul, private and unassuming. But the chapel was full. People stood shoulder to shoulder, and one by one, they came forward. A novelist said Irene had placed a specific book in her hands at age 12, the one that made her believe she could tell stories. A man who now runs his own auto shop said Irene helped him find the technical manuals he needed to get started, when no one else would give him the time. A young mother, with her son beside her, said Irene always saved the newest picture books for him, knowing he was shy. Story after story, a quiet life echoing through generations. Irene wasn't trying to build a legacy. She wasn't seeking recognition. She simply showed up. She learned the regulars' names. She remembered what you were reading last week. She created a small sanctuary of order and kindness. Nothing that would ever make the headlines. But the ripple of her steady, ordinary decency, it is still moving through the world in people she never met. I believe we have it all backwards. We've been taught that mattering means being seen by the many. We think it requires a stage. But life isn't built on stages. It's built in the narrow, holy space between two people. It's a word of encouragement that lands at precisely the right moment. It's a silent gesture of solidarity when someone believes they are alone. It's listening, truly listening, when every part of you wants to speak. These moments don't feel grand or historic. They feel mundane. They feel routine. They are so easy to dismiss as insignificant. I remember a time when I was about 42. My marriage felt like a fragile thread. My work felt utterly meaningless. I was adrift. One gray afternoon, I was sitting on a bench in the park, just staring at the pond. A man named Walter, whom I only knew from our morning bus rides, sat down beside me. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't offer advice. He just pointed to the old oak tree across the way and started talking about its roots, how deep they must go to hold up something that strong, how they silently gather strength through every season. He spoke for maybe 20 minutes. Then he placed a hand on my shoulder, stood up, and walked away. That conversation didn't fix my marriage or give my work purpose, but it grounded me. It was an anchor. It reminded me of depth and time and silent growth. I got up from that bench and went home to try again. Walter likely never gave that afternoon a second thought. That is the nature of mattering. It is almost always invisible to the one who offers it.
My late wife Clara made soup. Whenever anyone was sick, grieving, or just having a hard week, she'd show up at their door with a pot of soup. I'd say, "Clara, people can order takeout." She'd say, "It's not the same, Tom." After she was gone, person after person told me they still had her soup pot, that they'd never felt more cared for. She wasn't trying to be significant. She was just being Clara, but she mattered profoundly. Here's what I needed to hear at 20. Your life doesn't have to be extraordinary to matter. In fact, the pressure to be exceptional can break you. It makes you think your simple, decent life isn't enough. But the truth is, the world is held together by people no one will ever famous. The parent reading one more bedtime story. The worker doing an honest day's job. The friend who remembers to call. The neighbor who shovels your walk. Small, unseen threads that keep the fabric from unraveling. You want to know if you matter? Look at the person right in front of you. Are you there? Really there? Are you kind? Do you follow through? Do you make their burden a little lighter? That's the only measurement that counts. It won't make you famous, but it will make you real. My granddaughter asked if anything matters. I think the question itself is the trap. When we ask that, we're usually asking if we're important in the world's loud, flashy way. But mattering is quiet. It's knowing your presence makes a difference to a few specific hearts. Years ago, my nephew was struggling in school. Felt like he wasn't smart. Every Saturday for a month, I'd sit with him at my kitchen table. We'd just work on his math. No big speeches. I was just there. He's a grown man now. He may not even remember those Saturdays, but I do, because I know my steady presence was a small anchor in his storm. That's mattering. It's not glamorous, it's real. The older I get, the more I see that we chase phantoms. Accolades gather dust, titles fade, but people never forget how you made them feel. They don't forget that you saw them, that you stayed. Those moments become part of them. They travel onward. Last Tuesday, I was at the hardware store. The cashier, a young man, had this distant look. I asked, "Rough day?" He sighed and said his dog was at the vet and he was worried. We talked about dogs for a minute. I told him about my old retriever, Sam. When I left, he thanked me. Not a world-changing moment, but for a minute, he wasn't alone. That matters. So here's my answer to my granddaughter and to anyone wondering. Yes, what you do matters, but not in the way the world shouts about. It matters in the silent choices, the dull moments, the patience you choose, the truth you tell when a lie is easier, the help you offer when no one will see it. Your life doesn't need to be a monument. It needs to be honest, present, kind. And that's the hardest work there is. To show up consistently for the unremarkable days and the ordinary people. I'm 86. My road is getting shorter. And when I look back, I don't measure my life in achievements. I measure it in faces. The people I loved well. The times I was truly there. The quiet help given without a second thought. Those are the things that don't end when I do. They keep going. If this means something to you, pass it on to someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment. Tell me one small thing you'll pay closer attention to this week. And if you want more talks like this, from an old man who's running out of time but not out of things to say, then subscribe. I'd be glad to have you listening.